Welcome to the StockMentor.com studios here in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I'm your stock mentor, Brian Johnson, making professional trading simple. And once again, Mondays, good to the markets as we open an options expiration week. You can see the markets were slightly up today, but we talked about it this weekend. Mondays have always intended to be, in the past, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, sideways to up, sideways to up. This is one of the only days that I don't really mind holding overnight, Mondays into Tuesdays, when it comes to the indices, and this is why. We see a continued amount of, bullishness. We're up, so we've got to call it bullishness. Looking at it from a bigger picture, though, we did kind of gap up to start the day and dribble down the rest of the day. So not strong from the standpoint of the bulls, gap and go type of a move, but strong from the standpoint of certainly not moving down, and obvious by what we're looking at here, not breaking any of these lower levels. Look here, as we completed last Friday, we had just managed to break above this overhead resistance area of right up around 10,990, 10,995, somewhere around in there. And today continued that same type of a move. Moving up, finding a little bit of overhead resistance, falling backwards towards the end of the day, but overall this is a sideways moving day, which puts us right back in the same boat we have been for quite a while. So high base formation, holding above and closing above the 11,000 mark. That'll be made a big deal of. It's not that big of a deal, only big from the standpoint that it is above 11,000, but not so much from the standpoint of it's any bigger than what we've seen in the past. So above 11,000, big deal. We still got tomorrow left to go. It's just the fact that it's still high basing and holding above these levels. That's what I'm looking at ultimately, and it's just more of the same action. Moving to a daily, you can see exactly what we have been seeing, and that's this little move up, sideways, pull back, little move up, sideways. We could go, we could be lethargic tomorrow as well, when this is all said and done with. But this little candle up here is what? Just a potential reversal candle. These potential reversal candles have not worked so well on the way up, so make sure that if you're following the candlestick type patterns used by Steve Neeson and them, that you're using them in the proper way. And in this respect, this is only a potential reversal up here. Doesn't mean anything until we get some confirmation on it tomorrow. And with options expiration week being a typically volatile week, it may or may not happen tomorrow. It's such a guessing game when it comes to the options expiration weeks, especially anymore. Last one, I think we moved straight up most all week. So watch tomorrow for a move back up and above any one of these upper levels. This is just still really a high base formation. This little wick kind of makes it look like it's poking its way upwards, but I can draw a couple of lines here and contain price pretty well between those two lines, still making it a high base formation. Nasdaq on a 60 was up today. You can see though that it didn't really sustain the move to the upside. I mentioned this little 2,000 area up here, pulling right back though, right down into the 1995 area. So the Nasdaq only up 1 point. It's basically break even, especially for the Nasdaq. And look at the push it's had. What we're watching for is a move back up here towards the upper side of this channel line. For right now though, this is just rest, just consolidation. Nasdaq on a daily, holding above that blue line. We've been watching this for how long now? Yep, a very long time. And holding very nicely as it stands. Even today, has not broken this line. Did come back to retest it, and it ultimately closed above it, as it has in the past year. We've had many, many tests of it. I'm really loving this blue line. I think this is going to be one of the lines in the sand for the Nasdaq. Waiting for a break, and now ultimately somewhere below 1980 on the Nasdaq. From a weekly standpoint, very early yet, but look at that. Today we moved all of 10 points, so not much of a move today, not much to be doing, especially with a gap up. This is when we turn to stocks for our plays of the day. If you're going to be trading, best to stay out of this sideways chop action. You can get killed in these things pretty easily. SPX on a 60-minute, coming right up and towards that 1200 area. This was really close to it last night too in the futures. Actually, I think the futures managed to touch it last night. And that would have been about the same for the cash indice here on the SPX, but hovering right below that number, staying at or on this upper channel line. This is just for reference at this point right now, but it does give us a point to work off of. Here coming up to that overhead area and holding here, looking for breaks back down into this area to see if the bull or the bears are going to kind of take something, give something back to the markets here during the options expiration week. A lot of puts, I would believe, are still hanging out there. Would probably be best for a lot of the options writers to stay kind of sideways at this point in the markets and let the time decay just eat away at those options during the course of this week. From a daily standpoint, doing the same thing the Dow was, and that's up a little bit, down a little bit, holding the 1200 area, not able to get above it, just kind of sitting here. Very, very slow day today, a range of less than 5 points when it was all said and done with. About 4.5 points or so on the day. That is just basically untradeable from an indice standpoint. Weekly, obviously it's Monday, still looking at this overhead area of 1224, 1225 on the weekly charts. VIX on a daily, this is very interesting. Look at the big drop in the VIX. The markets were not up that far, and the VIX took a huge hit today. I might have even read an article today that the VIX is the lowest in like 2 years or something to that effect. From a weekly, you can see it dropping right down to at or below this blue line. I mentioned that 15 would be my next call on that. What did it hit today? 15.23. So we're getting right down into this 15 area. And if you want to, let's just go ahead and take a really quick look back. Let's go back 4 years and see what that does to this chart. Okay, so there you have it. Yeah, it could be way down here. This is way back around 12, 13 on the VIX. Wow, boy, that would show a lot of complacency in the markets. So we're going to be watching this very closely. This is the weekly candle, so obviously we don't know anything until Friday hits. But to have the VIX this low starts to make a lot of the longer-term options very, very tasty at this point. And I'm sure a lot of people will be watching for that too as this week rolls on. Apple on a 60-minute. Here was one that just sat up here and did nothing. Notice how we came to this double top area. Today we popped above it. A move above 242 was